Good morning, everybody, and welcome. It is something like November the 2nd. October has been over for 2 days, and the competition is ready to announce some winners. I spent half a day yesterday with our guest judge going through the images, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Mr. Graham Carey from the UK. Graham, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alan, and it's quite an honour to judge one of your competitions, your famous competitions.
Well, famous to me anyway. Fantastic. Well, the reason I asked Graham to join us was he has, I think, broken all records now with the number of wins in this competition, and his photography is absolutely spectacular. He has a vision that a lot of us aspire to. So I thought it would be the perfect person to judge what I thought was going to be a challenging competition. It turned out to be more challenging than I thought. What was your initial impression of the overall set of images, Graham?
Well, the first thing that I thought was, wow, there's enough people to enter. It's a difficult competition. Product photography must be one of the most difficult subjects to do. And so I was delighted to see so many and some good ones too.
Yes, some really good ones. We had only 20 entries this month. We normally have a few more. We're going to talk about every picture. The goal here is to give you some constructive feedback that will be useful, so that the next time you try to take a product photograph, you'll know more than you did the first time. This was a difficult competition. Why don't we get started? Our first honorable mention is this old Ford Escort from Bruno Santos. Bruno, this is a very interesting picture. I remember growing up with these little cars, Hot Wheels, I think they were called, something like that. It's an interesting picture that has some challenges. There was no doubt, of course, what the product in question was. But a couple of technical issues kind of intervened. I loved the Nikon colors. I loved the yellow and black, and I was fine with the low key presentation as well. But there were a couple of areas on the car that were a little out of focus, which is absolutely the kiss of death in a product photograph, because your product needs to shine. It absolutely has to shine, and that is always going to be an issue. Technical issues are going to be a problem whenever they appear. The artistic and creative part is more flexible, but in this case, I think that you ended up in the honorable mention category mostly because of the technical part, and there were parts of the image we couldn't clearly see, but by and large, a good idea and well presented. So congratulations and thanks for entering. Graham, what do you think of this old Ford Escort?
Well, when I first saw it, I thought, wow, that reminds me of a dark car park and people driving rather fast. I like the yellow car and the complementary yellow lines that presumably represent the road. I thought that was really good, but I was a bit lost. The background seemed to disappear into nothingness. The out of focus bit spotted me slightly. I'd like to see a little bit more context in the background.
Next up.
Okay, so we've got Ready for Action by Bruno Santos. Well, when I first saw this, I was a little bit scared, actually. I thought there was going to be a fight breaking out. Very aggressive, taking each other's space a bit too closely. As I looked at it, I thought, what am I looking at? Both products presumably are toys. If they're going to be the product, I was a bit worried that there's a bit of out of focus parts to them, and also I found that the background the colourful background was, although it's blurred, it's a bit distracting. The colours, and that could have been used to again add more context to whatever was going on. Also, I think the lighting could have been better on the subject, on the product, to bring out more detail.
Couldn't agree more, Graham. I looked at this and I wasn't sure what the product was. Was it both of these toys or one of these toys? And this is the first time I'll mention this, but I'll mention it again and again. I did say in the instructions that you could add script to your image to clarify the name of the product, because when you think about it, if you're taking a product photograph to entice people to go out and buy the product, they need to know what the product is. In this case, even if I wanted to buy that kind of angry looking bull, I wouldn't know what shop to go to. That I think is going to be problematic in a product photograph. And I agree with Graham about the lighting being a little bit distracting. But by and large, good effort. Appreciate your trying, sir, and please do so again. Next up in the honorable mention category, we have this rather enticing photograph from Susan Seaford. Pearl Earrings is the title. It's a lovely idea. It is tripped up by a couple of small technical issues. I like the placement of the product eccentrically. I always like that. But I think the lighting was problematic, as was the focus on the product. It is terribly, terribly important in product photography that everything that you're trying to show is either in focus or tastefully and predictably out of focus, and that the light is used to showcase the subject rather than, in this case, I think the light is spread out over the backdrop in a way that could be a little distracting. So focus and the lighting issue. I like the idea of the felt backdrop. It has a few crumbs on it, which would be easy to fix in post, but not terribly important in the grand scheme of things. Very good effort, Susan. I'm so glad to see you submitting photographs. I see great things in your future. Thank you. Graham, comments on this one?
Yes. I like the background. I agree with everything you said, Alan. The things for me were probably the slightly out of focus and the specular highlights, blown areas of the earrings themselves. And I felt that the earrings themselves were placed a little too near the left-hand side of the frame. I think an asymmetric or off-center image is fantastic, but probably a little too close to the left-hand edge. Shall we go on to the next one? It's
We shall indeed.
Julie Watts, Dragons and Dice. Now, I saw this one. I didn't know what was going on at all. It was, I can see a lot of effort's gone into it, but I wasn't sure what I was buying here, what the product was. It was looked a little bit confused to me. So, but nevertheless, a lot to see in the image. I love the falling dice. I thought it was a great idea, and potentially that was really good. But I say the overall image was confusing. I felt the lighting was a bit imbalanced. Slightly brighter on the right and duller on the left. And I also couldn't really understand what was going on with the base, the thing that's all happening on. It seems to be floating in the air above some wood grain and then a rather colourful background. So I think those two aspects sort of rather took my attention away from what was going on. I thought it was a mixed up photo, too complicated, and I couldn't really work out exactly what, again, I was buying or seeing as a product.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is striking and eye-catching. That the colours are very interesting and complementary. I believe that this was shot with resin. That this is actually static. That isn't a liquid splash at all, but it's a resin buildup. I'm not sure of that absolutely, but I think I may have seen a picture of this in the works. Again, I'm not sure what the product is. Is it the little dragons or the dice or the tray, or is this a game of some kind? Not sure. An opportunity missed, I think, to tell the audience, to tell the consumer what they're looking at will go a long way to making a product photograph more memorable. So I think it's an interesting, well-conceived, well-executed photograph. I think that the lighting was a bit uneven, agreed. And I also was a bit troubled by the floating platter, but that may be part of the game. I don't know. Maybe this game has a floating platter. But all in all, great effort. Thank you so much for submitting that, Julie. We enjoyed looking at it and talking about it. So next up, from Diane Vatcher. This was a challenging one. It's the flaming wine. Warning, open carefully. Batiste, I believe it's probably pronounced, is a spicy rosé that appears to be on fire, which is unlikely in a sealed bottle because of the oxygen thing, and surrounded by fumes or smoke, possibly. Not really sure. So a couple of things about the photograph that I love. I think it's colorful, bright. It certainly grabs your attention. Not really knowing what the product was is okay. I mean, in this case, it's obviously the bottle of Batiste, but now I'm intrigued to know what that is. I actually looked it up to find out what it was and didn't get any information on it. But the problems are, we have some specularity and some out of focus on the actual label, and that is a very dangerous thing, because if the label is out of focus, people aren't going to linger on the picture. Wasn't completely clear what it was, and the compositing of the flames was a bit touch and go here with the fluid level. These are picky observations. Not completely sure what I was looking at with the smoke in the background. There appears to be an object as well as smoke. Not quite sure what that's about. So all in all, very eye-catching. Certainly more of a product photograph, but with a couple of important flaws. Graham, what was your opinion of this one?
Well, my initial impression was, wow, nice bright image, looks great. But then very quickly, I've noticed the points you made about the out of focus. The two things that stand out for me are the contents of the neck of the bottle. I find that I didn't understand what was going on there. I also found that the background, although bright and rather nice, was overpowered the bottle, and I'd rather like to have seen some of the interior of the bottle and seen what you're actually buying. You know, the colour of the liquid, a bit more, coming out. So that would be my first observation, I think. Okay, shall we go on to the next one?
Let's indeed.
The next one is again from Diane Vatcher. Pine needles found in the Blackstone River Valley. Well, now, at first I saw this image, I thought, wow, that really stands out. I've got to say that it took me quite a while to realise what I was actually looking at. I could obviously see a pine cone. I could see things sticking out of it. I didn't know if they were natural or man-made at first. And then it struck me that obviously it's an incredibly clever image, because the pine needles and sewing needles are, I thought it was a very clever bit of conjunction, really. So I thought the pine cone itself was lit rather well, and I really liked the parts of the pine cone on the top of the table. I thought the cone itself was too prominent in the picture, or too obvious in the picture, and took the attention off the needles themselves, which is why I didn't see it in the first place. So I didn't know what I was getting. The real problem with those needles and the way it's been made is that it desperately needs focus stacking or something, because some of those needles are out of focus and I couldn't really see what was going on. And I really did miss it for quite a while, which is a real shame. I found the background a little bit too bright, and I found that the curved transition between the base and the background altogether too distracting. It just felt uneven, the picture.
Yeah, I would agree. I also reacted negatively to the background because of the strange line, not quite diagonal, not quite horizontal, but like you, I wasn't quite sure what the product was until it suddenly struck me that it could be the needles, as the only thing that would be considered a product in there was the needles. And noticing that many of the needles are out of focus, and there are many of the needles, it kind of confuses and obliterates the goal of a product photograph, to focus your attention on one particular supremely excellent product that you want to go out and buy immediately. In this case, It looked a little overly busy for me and unclear as to what I was actually looking at. I agree that the cone was in beautiful focus. I like the little touches of blue. I didn't at first, but I think it adds an interesting contrast. I think you may have had a blue gel on the lighting. Yeah, if the product was the needles, I think the needles should have been fewer and sharper and more central to the photograph. But all in all, very interesting. You do take some very interesting photographs, Dan. Appreciate your effort and thanks for being one of our runners up. Next up in this category, a very interesting and appealing photograph from Susan Seaford. This is Small Steamer. And I love this photograph. I think it's a wonderful idea for a product. And that's where this competition began, was coming up with a good idea that you could turn into a good story for a product. And this does that. This is intriguing. It's obviously a working steam engine of some kind and just pulls you in. Where it has some problems, I like the indistinct background. I like the low-key nature of the photograph. I like the selective lighting of the machinery. I like the framing, though it is a little crowded in the frame. What I think trips it up is the uneven focus with areas on the front of the thing not quite in focus, and then we lose focus again at the back of the train. It's much more bothersome here than it is at the back, and I think that's the main thing that I would work on. This photograph may actually have been more suitable for a 3 or 4 shot focus stack. I liked the lighting, though I wonder if it could have been a little more diffused to knock down some of these bright highlights on the barrel of the steam engine. All in all, a very successful attempt and a very clever photograph. Much appreciated. What did you think, Graham?
Well, I loved it actually. I love the product. The product sold it to me. The train is wonderful. I love it. I totally agree with what you say. I don't mind the background. I think it's a little crowded at the top. I like the way that the rails go out of focus on the right hand side. I think that's a really great idea. But the out of focus buffers and the chimney stack at the front really confuse the eye. If they were in focus, it would just make a lovely transition off into the out of focus right hand side of the image. But I think that's a great effort, actually, Susan. Well done.
What do you have next for us?
Next, right, okay, we have Roy Walker, a tot of amber nectar. Wow, this looked really tasty, and again, the product was rather appealing, I've got to say. So when I first looked at it, I thought, well, nice colours. I like the colour of the background, but I found that the bottles weren't lit particularly well. They weren't bright enough to take your attention. I'm looking at the colours of the background. I'm sort of losing. I need some impact with those labels. I thought the layout was probably wrong for the fact you're using 3 different bottles. Perhaps the bottle with a lighter coloured top should have gone in the middle, but actually I don't think they should have been done in a row at all. I think the fact that you've got the levels being different, the different labels, the different caps. I think if they'd have been staggered in fore and aft in some way, would have made a much better image. Putting them level like that, you tend to compare them, and all you see is the difference between them. I also thought that the background again disguised the contents, because the contents in themselves will have a lovely colour. So again, that could be brightened up a bit, I think. Yeah, what do you think, Alan?
I agree with everything. It does bother me that the background is lit more aggressively than the subject. I think that starting out with some front lighting, not axial lighting, side lighting for sure, but something soft and diffused. But there are a couple of problems in composition that Graham brings up, and a couple that I'd mention. Number one, the Glenmorangie label on the bottle on the left is not straight, and that is one of those things that in product photography is a no-no. Also with the Abalor label, it's not dead on to us. It's got room on the right and no room on the left, and the label on the other Glenmorangie is peeling off. So these things are minor, but when the entire story focuses on the product in the photograph, it just has to be perfect. Product photographers spend at least as much time preparing the subject to photograph to make sure that there is absolutely not a drop of, not a spot of dust on it, and so on. This loses, I think, an opportunity to shine. I agree with Graham. I don't know exactly what the product is. Is it Abalor or one of the Glenmorangies, or is it just whiskey in general? Usually for a product photograph, it's clear and concise and distinct what we're looking at. So all in all, it's a good idea. It's pretty well executed. I think the main trip up was what happened before you took the photograph, to be frank. But thank you very much, Roy. You really should get your first name changed to Johnny if you're going to be taking a lot of these kind of photographs. So let us move on to our next honorable mention. This one's from Julie Botts. This is a clever photograph, and it's well executed. I love the colors. I love the focal plane. Even the lighting is not too far off what you would want. But the problem here is I have no idea what the product is, other than a pen of some kind. I can't see the end of the pen, so clearly it's not writing this stuff. So it left me a little bit wondering, what kind of pen is it, and what is the name of the thing? I immediately want to go buy one, of course, because of how nice it writes, but I don't know what to ask for. So normally, not always, but normally when you're photographing a product, you really have to find a way to include the entire product and a way to identify what the product is. And in this case, clever photograph. I certainly get what you were getting at, but it would have been an easy thing. Graham knows all about photographing pens. It would have been an easy thing to put Bic down in one corner in nice bold letters, and then everybody would know, oh, this is a Bic rollerball pen. But instead, we're left wondering what it is. It's certainly a nice photograph. I give you all the credit for that. Well lit and a pleasure to look at. Just, I think, missing the key point of the product at its root. Graham, your thoughts?
Love. At first I saw it. I thought I really like it. I love the color of the paper and the writing. I thought it was great. Second thought was, dark pen. Where's the point? There's no point to write with. So, yeah, I think to my mind, if you like, you could have zoomed out more and taken hold of the pen in. I wondered, I like the out of focus writing as well, fore and after. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I wondered really if it would be bettered by having the tip of the pen at the end of the letter, perhaps, so that you could read a significant word there. I think that would work quite well. The lighting on the pen's a bit dark, I thought. But yeah, I think if something could be made of an end of a letter, perhaps with the pen standing there as if it had written it, it would have been a better image all round. But yeah, overall, I like the colours.
Agreed. Next up, sir.
Next up, we have Amy Furman, Handmade Beauty. A lovely, lovely knife here. I looked at it and I thought, wow, that's an expensive looking knife with some beautiful etching on it. I did wonder about the lighting on it at first. I thought it was a bit of a confusing image because you've got a beautiful blade that I can only see there's highlights on the tips of it, and I can't really see enough of the detail to make me look at it and think, wow. I can see some scratching and things on the handle, which I think again with a change of lighting might have been diminished a little bit. You could have taken it away without having to polish it, if you like. I thought um, the, the flatter lighting might have been better. The background, the lines of the wood grain interfered terribly with the lines of the knife itself, especially the blade. So I wonder if a different background would have helped this image greatly, to be honest. Yeah, that's my gut feelings about it. How about you, Alan?
Well, I certainly agree with the wood grain. The wood grain appears to be continuous with the inlay pattern on the handle and continuous with the blade edge. And I think that is jangling to my sensibilities. I would have probably rotated the knife 90 degrees and had these wood fibers running either diagonally or even vertically. The star of this is probably the inlay, the abalone or whatever it is handle, and the lovely work on the blade, which is a little troublesome because the blade tip has some specularity that does obscure some of the detail. I would have probably tried to find a way to light the blade more clearly and bring it forward as the star of the show. Also, a little bit of metal polish on the steel parts of the handle, I think would have covered up most of those cracks. Some of the just Brasso would probably have done it. I don't know, to lessen them, maybe taking the light more oblique. There's one thing in this that bothers me, I think more than anything else, because I can't explain it, is this odd pinkish halo around the handle that appears to be most of the way around the handle. I don't know where that's coming from. It looks like a reflection of something, but I don't see anything red to make the reflection. So I'm a little troubled by what that actually is. But all in all, it is absolutely no doubt what the product is. But again, not exactly sure where I would go to buy it without some kind of a pointer. But I'm not going to beat that dead horse. Nice photograph, well executed, almost hitting on all cylinders there. Next, I think we're into some numbered ones, and I don't know where to start with number 10. It's Amy Furman and it's Memento Mori, which is a rather gruesome and slightly disturbing image of what appears to be a coffin shirt with a baby inside of it. Not really sure of any way to sugarcoat that. It's a small trinket, I presume. I absolutely love the colors. The colors work beautifully. The frame is a little crowded, but I'm going to avoid any other comments about what I'm actually looking at and focus on the photograph itself. There is a blush of high intensity lighting on the bottom of the shirt next to the third button, which drags my attention away from, thank goodness, the presumably post-mortem baby inside the shirt. I had nightmares about this, by the way, last night. I think you should know. I'm a bit troubled by the dirt, but I would understand if this is an antique, but you don't go scrubbing that out. It's just I would have been tempted to take a toothbrush to it. A couple of specular highlights in the buttons, and a troublesome darkening around the baby's right face, making it a little more sinister than it already was, if that's possible. So these are all minor stylistic points. One bigger point is normally when we talk about a product photograph, we are talking about something that is mass produced or produced in multiples, such that anybody who looks at the advert can go out and buy one. That's kind of what we're getting at with product. This is definitely a one-off thing as far as I can tell. and you're not going to get people lining up at Walmart to buy them. So I understand that that kind of changes the idea of product a little bit, and as such, it was a bit troubling to me. But that was a minor personal point. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Graham, did you have nightmares about this one?
Yes, I did. Very worrying. I agree with everything you said. And when I first looked at it, I thought, well, those colours are fantastic. The background and the texture of the backgrounds and the colours are wonderful. You can't go wrong with blue and gold, can you? The main problems for me were the fact that the image was a little tight in the top right-hand corner for me, and also in the top right-hand corner, the back of the collar, there's an out of focus areas. And again, that those slight things ruined the image slightly for me. But apart from that, I thought it was a lovely image.
Next.
Okay, here we go. The next one is Pierre Seurat with Ristretto. Nice cup of coffee. Who doesn't like a nice cup of coffee? Nice image. I first looked at it and I thought, well, it's well lit. There aren't any specularity. There isn't any specularity. It's a nice soft image. I started looking a bit closer, and I found that I wasn't really sure what I was looking at here. Is it the cup of coffee I'm looking at, or is it the packet on the left-hand side? And if it was a packet on the left-hand side, I found that a little dark. I think that could have been illuminated a little bit better. I felt the spoon was in such a position that I couldn't really see what it was, and you had to sort of hunt for what it was. So I wasn't really sure about that. I also thought the handle of the cup ought to face to the right, because the majority of the population are right-handed, and when I look at that, I turn it round straight away, and that was sort of irritating me. I know that's a very personal point, but that's what I thought. The other thing I was slightly worried about was the very dark background. I thought that was too dark. I don't mind it being offset, but I thought. Then I sort of looked at the steam coming off the top, and I thought, well, if you'd had a little bit more room at the top to allow that steam to rise, and you could see it floating away, and then drew in the right-hand side of the image, I think that would make a better image. That was my feeling, Alan.
Yeah, I think that we were on the same track with this. First of all, I wasn't completely sure what the product was. Is it the Nescafe cup and saucer, or is it the Lavazza instant coffee saying? Either way, it wasn't completely clear. The image was too dark for me too. I couldn't make out that spoon until suddenly it clicked what it was. Another thing about when you're doing food and drink in product, you need to make sure that the food and drink is perfect. It's shown without a blemish. And in this case, you've got some staining on the cup rim at the back of the cup, which would reject the photograph if you were taking that for marketing purposes. It's a tiny point. It's not important. What I really agree with, more than anything that Graham said, is the opportunity here to make this a magazine page shaped shot with some height to it, so that you could have maybe an artificial curl of steam rising up the page, and then maybe even an opportunity to add a little script and tell us what the product is. A Lavazza or an N for the Nescafe or Nespresso or whatever it is. All in all, it was definitely clearly a product photograph. It was well executed, except for the little out of focus areas. I liked it. And I think it's the kind of thing I would have expected from Pierre Seurat. So nice photograph, nice 9th place. Moving on to number 8. Oh, Pierre Seurat once again. This is Bleu, or Bleu, I'm sure it's pronounced, by Chanel. It's some kind of a perfume, I think, or an aftershave. There are issues with this photograph from a technical standpoint. I love the colors, the golden sand, the blue of the sea. The problem is the blue of the bottle is completely lost in the photograph. What we have is largely a silhouette of the bottle, and The foreground is awfully busy, a little distracting. Between the sea and the foreground, the bottle of perfume looks almost like an afterthought. It also doesn't appear to be geometrically stable in that position, and that always bothers me when I see something that is positioned in a way that my brain is saying, no, that's going to fall over. And I think that this was unnecessarily overcomplicated, but it was also clearly a product that we could recognize and go out and buy. And it missed a couple of opportunities. A little more light on the foreground, a little less busyness in the background, and possibly even a little backlighting on that bottle. I know those bottles are very dark blue, but a tiny bit of light from behind, maybe a single LED, may have given just enough glow through it to make it clearly appear as a blue bottle. All in all, I'm glad to see that you got the horizon completely flat in the back. But a good photograph, clever thinking, well executed. Just a couple of things to tweak. Graham, your thoughts?
Well, I saw this image. I thought, fantastic! What beautiful colours, really lovely. And this image is so close to being good, so close to being top notch. I agree with Alan. Bottles leaning perhaps too much. The biggest thing for me, though, is the silhouetting of the bottle against the background. It desperately needs some blue showing one way or another, whether that's through lighting or backlighting or whatever. And that's the thing that really got to me. It would really lift that image, if that happens. Overall, it's a lovely image. Just a couple of little tweaks would have made it so much better. Should we move on to number 7?
I think we should.
Which is it comes from Wolf Meyer, folding camping stove. Now, again, a great image. I saw this one. I thought, what a great idea. No one's done it. They put an insert in, little inset into the image to show what you're getting, and also in a slightly different folded up way. And I thought that's really good. I found the orange line around the inset image slightly, I don't know. I think perhaps it could have been another color, darker color, dark red or red or something. The thing that really got me though was it's obviously a composite. The background and the bottle with the product on the top just looked disjointed, and this is crying out for a continuity between the bottle and the background, an image in situ in the countryside or wherever it's going to be with the same lighting, with that inset would have been fantastic. We've got a bottle that's lit not particularly well either. It's got specular highlights. I didn't like it. If only that could be put in situ, I think that would have made a fantastic image.
I agree. I think that the opportunity here was great to make this one really stand out, because it was a great idea. Nobody else thought of doing this inset. Of course, the idea is this is a folding stove, so showing it folded up is a brilliant idea. It adds to the appeal. However, the inset is larger than the lifestyle image on the left, which I think is a little out of balance. I agree that the orange ring around the product is jarring, because it's not the same color orange as the orange on the bottle, and it might have looked better as a very thin line of red, the same red as on the manifold, or brass colored. Either way, these are fine points, but I think that have made it more viewable. This is a composite. I don't know if the new Photoshop tool, Harmonize, was used. I suspect not, because I also was bothered by the fact that the light is clearly at odds with the background and the product. You can see studio lights in the product, and nothing to correspond with the background. So it was a bit jarring from that point. Showing the whole gas canister and the thing with the flame on it in front of a tent may have been a little more effective, and then having a smaller insert lower down just to show the thing folded up would have been the icing on the cake. It was a brilliant idea. It was almost exactly the right thing. Couple of minor points is all. Certainly well worthy of seventh place. Congratulations, Wilf. A good photograph. Next up at number 6 is from Roy Walker once again. And this is Celtic Love Knot. Okay. At first blush, I liked this photograph. It jumped out at me. Once again, little doubt of what the product is. It's this brooch, or whatever one would call it, tie pin. I'm not really sure what it is, and that could, I guess, potentially be a problem, not knowing exactly what it is. But I guess anybody buying it probably would know what it was for. I found myself looking quite intently at all of the cool stuff in the background instead of at the brooch. The background is pulling my attention away from the gold. Not that much, but some. The things that slightly bothered me about the brooch itself were it wasn't horizontal. It's tilted to the down on the right hand side, which is another one of those convention things. Have it at an angle or have it horizontal, but make sure it is. I was really bothered by the photographer's reflection in this loop of the brooch. We can see Roy's face here, and presumably one of his arms here, and that's another one of those things. If you don't know what to look for, you might not see it, and it will trip up a product photograph. The last thing I would mention, it didn't bother me, I think, as much as it might have bothered Graham, but this and the opportunity to use some script on the page was taken here. It's just, it doesn't quite fit in this location. It's a little unbalanced. Now I'll defer to Graham's comments on that. By and large, though, a good photograph, certainly clear and unambiguous, and mostly well executed. Graham, your thoughts?
I agree. It's a lovely photo, and it's starting. We're getting near the top of our list now, and these products are becoming more appealing. I love the marble background. I think it's great. I think perhaps the little dark area in the bottom left-hand corner, and perhaps the indent on the left-hand side, above the left-hand side of the product, probably initially distracting. I found the marbling quite distracting generally, and I wondered if perhaps the subject could be brought, or the product could be brought forward a little more. But what really got to me was the writing. Great idea using gold. The linking the text to the product was fantastic, and I can see why it's put where it is, because it's on a darker area. But to my mind, if there was a gradation at the bottom of the image down to black or a darker area, and the writing was larger and written on that darker surface, it would have improved the image colossally. At the moment, it's right up against the edge. It looks as if it's been put there because it won't fit anywhere else and show up. And I think that's a tragedy, really, because it's actually a really nice image. Well, I think we're top 5 now. In 5th place, we have Wilf Meyer again. Clamping Clamps, which is a bit of a tongue twister. My initial thoughts were, wow, what a lovely image, what a lovely the contradiction between the lovely warm colours and the black and white background, I thought worked incredibly well. So I thought that was well thought out, very clever, and my initial thoughts were, I really like it. But then I started looking. I thought, what am I actually buying here? What is the product here? The things that concerned me were we seem to have 2 different makes of clamp, so I didn't know which one I was buying. I thought the text on the clamp on the left was upside down. So again, I thought, that didn't feel right. I know it fits in with the structure, but we're buying a product here. We need to be able to read what it says. I also found the overlapping handles on the right-hand side of the clamps also really frustrated, because I couldn't really see what was going on. I know why it was done. I can technically I can see, well, you know, how that felt as if it was going to work, but to my mind, it got lost a bit. The other thing that I think would have improved the picture somewhat is if we had some relationship between the backgrounds, the black and white backgrounds, and the warm clamps, by perhaps having a hand tool, or I recognise a hand tool as a saw or something, in the sort of semi foreground, but faded out, so you could see that it was a woodworking shop. But on the whole, I mean, it's a lovely image, and you know, it's great forethought. But again, tiny things have distracted from it being the top place.
Agreed. I mean, my first reaction to this was, "Oh, what a great idea! And well executed." I'm seriously bothered by the upside down clamp on the left, but I am more seriously bothered by the two clamps on the right are a different brand, which immediately plunges me into the conflict about the product. I did not initially think that the background needed anything, but as soon as Graham mentioned a hand tool or some sawdust or a piece of lumber in the foreground, yes, I agree completely. But the idea of the warm, colourful product against the background, it was a good idea. Nobody else came up with this one. But I honestly think that this picture would have been more successful had it been one Jorgensen clamp, maybe at a slight angle. But yeah, one clamp, the prettiest of the four, would have been simpler and cleaner and more appealing. But agreed, brilliant idea, and well executed. Well done, 5th place. At number 4, this is a tough one to comment on. This is from Ingolf Kuntz. This is paper clips. Well, the note in the middle is eye-catching and gave me a good chuckle. But it is, if it were not for the title of the photograph, I may be a little confused as to what the product actually was. Is it a post-it note or the paper clips? And again, I think an opportunity to use a little bit of script, a little bit of graphics on the slide may have been able to draw the attention to the clip more prominently. Right now, my eye is drawn to the note in the middle, and while I certainly appreciate the self-referential writing on the note, I think that it's a distraction from the fact that you're trying to sell paper clips here. It's technically it's a lovely photograph. I think as we're used to, Ingolf has handled the light and the shadow and the colors absolutely professionally, and from that point of view, it's a pretty flawless picture. I love the curl in the paper, even the contrast between the light blue and the yellow paper. It's very close to being a solid photograph, with just a couple of detractors from it. What did you think, Graham?
Totally agree with you, Alan. I like it a lot. Nice, simple image, in as much as it's nice lighting, soft lighting, simple, effective lighting. I love the curled up paper. It gives a 3D dimensionality to the image. Otherwise, it could have been a very flat image, I think. So I like that. I think that was really good. I'm afraid I do agree with you about the writing on it. It could so easily have been something clever relative to the product. I won't make up some text myself, but it could have been better. But overall, it's a great image. And again, we're getting very picky when we start picking holes in these ones.
So true.
Okay, so we're up to number 3. And number 3 is George Simpkins, and the title is Belfour Bourbon. I love this image. Very tempting. Even though I don't drink very much, I quite like to drink that. Actually, it's lovely. I love the background. I think the texture of that background and the sort of smoky atmosphere it conveys is fantastic. I like the reflection. I like the bottle, and I like the glass. So again, we've got to be picky here. To me, I think the bottle is the glass is too small against the bottle. If the glass, which is the thing that we're interested in drinking as well, is brought forward so that it becomes more prominent in the picture, that would be so much better. I think the if there was more sparkle to the labels on the bottle, that again would make it more attractive. The ice, again, something could be made of that. The ice that really looks, and you know, if you wanted to be really clever, you could have a few gaseous sparkles coming out the top of the glass, which would have been absolutely wonderful. But I love the image, I love the colours, and again, so close to the top. Wonderful, well done.
I agree. It's a lovely picture. I'm surprised it was the only one that took on this rather. It's one of the ultimate challenges, I think, in product photography is making drink bottles or drinks look appealing and natural. I like the way the bottle has been lit. George has done some backlighting to make the edge on the right or the right side of the bottle more prominent. Unfortunately, it didn't quite get all the way up to the top, leaving the cap a little obliterated. I don't know if this is a cork or a screw-on thing. I was bothered by this stripe of material down the middle of the neck. It's crazy how tiny things get my attention on these product photographs, but it looks like a stain of some kind, something I would have tried to avoid. I think that the labels were lit separately with maybe flagged off lights. Certainly they're bright. They could have been a little more in your face. I don't know what was done with the backlighting of the bottle. Normally on a shot like this, I will put a piece of gold foil behind the bottle and use whatever reflections I get from the bottle to transmit that color through the liquid in the bottle. In this case, I'm a bit bothered by the yellowish, reddish, and greenish. There's a green tint to this edge of the bottle. Not sure where it's coming from. All in all, though, an incredibly successful picture. Well done. I agree with Graham. This glass should be in the foreground, a more prominent part. I don't like it sitting next to the bottle because it detracts from the bottle. I would probably put the bottle middle of the frame, glass in front of the one edge of it, and prominent but on one side of the frame. That's just my my thought. All in all, though, clear product, clearly attractive and appealing. I cannot stand bourbon, but yeah, this would make me want to give it a one last shot. So nice job. Which means we are up to the silver medalist, and lo and behold, it's George Simpkins again. We didn't do this by design at all, did we? These names just appeared next to one another. This is one of the nicest photographs, obviously, that I saw in this competition. It is a consummate product photograph. It is beautifully framed, beautifully lit. The backlighting and edge lighting is very professional. He has painted light onto this shoe. I don't know how many lights it took, or how long it took him to get these beautiful accents that are so subtle around the heel cup of the shoe, around the sole, which is very hard to do when you're doing black on black. The laces are perfect, and this lovely edge light at the top. There was one thing about this that struck me that I'd make a comment about, and that's how incredibly picky I'm getting. See these ridges in the shoe here? I'd have stuffed some newspaper down there to try to even that out, to get that smoother, because this shoe looks like it might have been worn once or twice, but now we're getting ridiculously picky. I love this picture. Absolutely first rate. What do you think?
Gosh, how how can you criticize this image? It's fantastic. It's actually stunning. You can just see that in on a poster or in a magazine or something. Absolutely fantastic. I can see what you're saying. If you wanted me to be ultra picky, I'd say perhaps you could have lit the inside of the shoe slightly so that you could see some of the um, the inside foot area just slightly. Just that would just lift it and give it an extra dimension. And I've got to say, this was so close to being the top one, and it was only bypassed by some very clever thinking by the winner. But what a photograph! Fantastic,
I
love it.
love it. I never thought about the inside stitching until you mentioned that. That would be, there is some light there, isn't there? But just a little bit more, a little smidgen would have done it. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful.
Well,
Great. I think we have one left, don't we?
We're up to number one. Should we tell them?
I think we should. I think we should. They're waiting.
The winner is Angie Wallace with Shine Cherry Shine. What a photo! Absolutely amazing. If you're going to get a simple product, and it really is a simple product, and make a beautiful photo out of it, this is the one. I love this photograph. It's striking. It's beautiful. The color choices are just inspired. Really, I think it was fantastic. The color gradation on the cherries in reverse to the background are just all terribly clever. I love the reflection. I love the lighting. The product is shown up with nice light. I love the way that the cherries. I love the water on the cherries. I love the stalk of the top cherry curling over the top of the product. Absolutely fantastic. Reflections are beautiful. And I like the way that the product has been placed, and the cherries for that matter, on the dividing line between the foreground and background. Again, that looks absolutely perfect. And as I said before, if you ever wanted to make a fantastic image out of a simple product, that's the one. Absolutely wonderful. Well done. Well done, Angie. Fantastic.
Yes, I concur with everything you said, Angie. This is a wonderful photograph. The things that struck me, as Graham just mentioned, the reversed gradient of the colors of the cherries. I don't know if I would have come up with that. The idea of having the darker cherry against the lighter background, and at the top of the stack of cherries, the lightest one against the darker background. It just looks balanced. It makes the cherries look juicy and cherry flavored. I know exactly what the product is. I even know what the product tastes like by looking at this. You can actually, it's palpable. This is a professional product photograph that I could easily see on the side of a bus in London, or just about anywhere really. The touch of that little tiny bit of green looping over the top of the tube of lip stuff, that I don't know why that is so appealing to me, but it kind of holds the whole photograph together. It's just that tiny subtle accent that makes it all work. This was a cracking good photograph, and well worthy of the win. Angie, congratulations. Amazing. So what do you think of that, Graham? Was that tough? Should we come up with something easier for next time?
I think that was a really tough challenge, and thank you so much for everybody who entered, because I think it really made it. It was terribly difficult to judge. I'm glad I didn't enter this one. It was really tough. I thought it was wonderful, and keep up the good work, everybody. And I look forward to seeing the next month's images. Fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, as Graham and I were finishing up our work yesterday and finalizing this list, we talked briefly about the competition for next month, and I asked him if he could help me come up with an idea that was something we hadn't done and was novel. And I'm going to announce the subject for next month right now, actually. Thanks to Graham's input, we talked about this, and I think this is a brilliant idea. The title of the theme for the month of November is A Single Leaf, Dead or Alive. Your interpretation of that instruction. That's all you get. A single leaf, dead or alive. Make it something special. Make it something I would want to put on my wall, and you'll almost certainly win. Thank you to everybody who submitted photographs, especially to those people who submitted their first photographs to this competition. It takes guts to do this. It really does. I'm genuinely impressed at people who can overcome their desire not to do so and do it, because this is a great way to learn photography. Thank you most wholeheartedly to Graham Carey for joining me to do this. What an excellent and professional judge. I absolutely was blown away by the detail and thoroughness of your evaluations. It was a pleasure to work with you. So thank you all for coming, and we will see you next month with the results from the single leaf, dead or alive. Graham, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity, Alan.